widespread looting. 200 members of the Washington National Guard have been called up to come into Seattle. 75 have been deployed to Seattle tonight. The other 100.
I am also taking swift and decisive action to protect our great capital, Washington, D.C. What happened in this city last night was a total disgrace. As we speak, I am dispatching thousands and thousands of heavily armed soldiers, military personnel, and law enforcement officers to stop the rioting, looting, vandalism, assaults, and the wanton destruction of property.
Hello, everybody. Alfred Johnson coming to you again. Listen, we're going to continue our theme on Trump support. Why we support the president. Why I support the president, and why I encourage blacks and Hispanics, especially, to back the president. Back the president of the United States. I'm going to bring some things to you that you're not going to be hearing on the news channels at CNN and MSNBC. Listen to me when I'm telling you, these folks are bringing up information that isn't really even true. As I told you on our very first episode, whenever they want to censor the truth, whenever people want to censor the truth, they do it not by just hiding it from you or forcing it from the library shelves or forcing it from the internet, even though they're doing that now. Their primary way of keeping people from knowing the truth is just to muddy the waters. That means they're going to give a bunch of misinformation, a bunch of information that doesn't really even matter. And then they're going to mix that with a bunch of made up stories so that you can't really focus, and they're going to be appealing to the worst part of you, to your fears and to your doubts and to your anger and to your hatred and to your misconceptions. And they're going to be into your resentments. They're going to be appealing to that. They're going to point to who they want you to target, who they want to target, and who they want you to pour your negative, poisonous emotions on. And then, like sheep, there we go. We follow them. And I'm asking that our people wake up. Blacks, I'm asking that you wake up. You think independently, think strongly, and demand facts. Demand facts. I'm asking that the men that are listening to me, why don't you be men? Don't allow yourself to be emotionally swept into stuff. We ought to be guided by principles and outcome. Principles and outcome. We are men, and this is how it's to be done. And the principles will allow us to govern our lives in a way that's best. I mentioned to you economically, here goes a principle, that if you work hard, keep making yourself better, invest in your proper thought life, continue to conduct yourself with respect, so that people revere you. Be specific about what you do. Be particular about how you execute your job. Work with energy and with precision. And what's going to end up happening, the kind of man that you become is going to be the kind of man that either is going to run his own business, or your market value, what your value as a human being, will go up, 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 up. And the more time that goes by, the more value and personal leverage in the market you'll have. You're going to end up being able to take care of your family very well. Now, that mentality will help you to understand what you need to be doing politically. If you know that work must be done in order for us to become more mature, in order to perfect ourselves. If you know that hard work and precision and good character is what takes you to the next level, that will translate into certain kind of political things. That is, you already know that since work is the thing that establishes, work is the thing that teaches, working well is what happens to build good character, build proper habits that makes you valuable, then you know that no work, if work is not being done, then those qualities, those habits, those dispositions that you will need for success, they won't be acquired. And you would therefore go into the realm of politics and you would look for what promotes excellence. What policies promote us to be the best that we can be? What policies help us to best prepare, to best do? Because it's only by doing that we become. Then you'll end up recognizing what insidious things hide behind the entitlement programs in our country. When you see a whole party trying to give away a bunch of free stuff, you're going to know how to translate that. When you're a person of good character and meticulous work, hard work, when you're a person that's constantly improving and you're working very well, you know the value of that, so that you will know the value of the not working. Anytime they provide the entitlements, it means that you're not going to be able to work. You're not going to work hard. You're not going to do it. Your demeanor has already been compromised. You're not going to work to acquire, work to perfect, work through suffering and challenges and the things that make for good character. You won't be able to do it. They will have undermined it by a bunch of free gifts, free food, free housing, and everything else. But let me tell you this: if you don't work, then you don't earn what you could earn. And if you don't earn, then it's a reduction in your learning. If you don't learn, then you don't really become what you should be. And if you don't become, then you cannot express and live the way you are ordained to. This is how faith and family and laws all work together. This is how this stuff works in order for us to understand what's going on in terms of law and how we should be relating with our government and everything else. Well, today, again, I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about the policies that Trump has enacted, what he's done as a leader to really help the black and brown community. And again, I'm specifically speaking to you. Now listen to me. I believe that there's only one race. There's only the human race. And whenever we use the term race, we just use it in a relative sense. It's just something that we use to demarcate blacks from whites to Mexicans, but really there's only one race. So when you hear me speak of race, just know that I really believe there's only one. There's only one human race. We all descended from one and his wife. That's it. And but nonetheless, when I use the term race, I'm just using it in the common sense of dividing one color from the rest and cultures and stuff like that. Okay. So here we go. I'm just going to go over some of the accomplishments of Trump that are absolutely remarkable that you will not hear on the media, or if you hear it, they will either pervert it, twist it, make it fit an evil narrative so that his motives are constantly poisoned. You allow motives to be assigned to him, and then that poisons your understanding of things. Let me just go over a few, and I will be going over these over the next broadcast, just so that you'll hear and know. And I'm just going to, some of these are going to be repetitive. Some are going to repeat, okay? But there's going to be some small nuance that makes it different from the previous one. Here was one right here. Trump finalized the creation of Space Force as our 6th military branch. Now, I know, blacks or Hispanics might be thinking, yeah, but how does that directly help me? That helps nothing, no more than the space program and the doctors and the scientists and the astronauts and the people that are involved with that. It helps the people who are building the rockets and perhaps the people, whatsoever, who work at, whatever. Folks, to have that 6th branch of the American military, you have to be able to look into the future. Now, it takes a person of good character, and by the way, this is why work is needed. This is what entitlement robs us of. See, when you're working, you start realizing how time will work in your favor if you'll cooperate with it. And you'll be able to look into the future about your projects and your plans and how you expect things to manifest in time. And experience will have taught you. The future becomes very valuable to you when you're a person of good character. But when you haven't learned that, the future is just distant. It only matters what makes me feel good right now. And that kind of immature mentality is what's causing a bunch of problems right now. The 6th branch of the American military, especially since we have the economy to dominate in this realm of space, it guarantees, well, as much as possible. I suppose there is no guarantee so long as we decide we're going to be going against God. And you'd be amazed what can happen when God is removed. You'll be amazed at what happens in our own nation, in our own government when God is removed. It's already happening, and you're watching it happening before your very eyes. But nonetheless, if in fact we would regain our footing, our moral footing, our strategic footing, our social footing with each other, if we can regain that, to have a space force that's the 6th branch of the military guarantees a dominance that will protect your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren. So long as America is the greatest economic superpower on the planet, we're going to be able to spend on those kind of projects in a way that would more, in greater probability, secure our children. Are you concerned about your babies? Are you concerned about your grandchildren? Or is it all about you in the now? But if you're concerned about the future, this one act of the president is absolutely remarkable. Let me go to the next. Violent crime has fallen every year he's been in office after rising during the 2 years before he was elected. Now, of course, this one took place, and it definitely took place before this whole COVID and all this other rioting and stuff just began to occur over complete nonsense. And by the way, I'm going to be talking about that later on as well. What incited all of these riots and what the media is doing to feed into a very poisonous and evil narrative, and we're following it. We're believing this bunch of nonsense. But nonetheless, the violent crime before this last few months occurred, it fell every year he's been in office, after rising the 2 years before he came into office. Okay? His policies, the employment, and all of these things, they help to keep us working, to keep us focused, to keep us optimistic in life. And it leads to a decrease in crime. How about this one? Trump's EPA gave $100 million to fix the water infrastructure problem in Flint, Michigan. I want you to notice how the media has now left that one alone. Before, they were saying that politicians don't care about Flint, Michigan. It's a large city, and there's a large black population there. A large black population in Flint, Michigan. And the water was poisoned over there with all kinds of stuff. And officials weren't taking action on it. Our previous president was not taking the kind of action that needed to be taken on it. This president gave $100 million to fix that water problem. And that area of Flint, Michigan is the better off for it. And our black brothers and sisters that are over there are the better off for it. The president's initiative, $100 million to assist our brothers and sisters in that area. Folks, we better wake up. Under Trump's leadership in 2018, the U.S. surpassed Russia and Saudi Arabia to become the world's largest producer of crude oil. You might say, what does that mean to me? That only helps the people who make the oil and sell the oil. No, my family, it also helps the people who buy the oil. If it happens to be that Russia and Saudi Arabia, these other major gas producers, are no longer the top producers, then they can't make the prices what they want the prices to be. All of a sudden, America, because we're the #1 producer, we're able to negotiate crude oil prices down, which end up saving us when we go to that pump. And by the way, you might not know about that. You know, if right now the gasoline is $2.20, but before it was $3.20, it might seem like it might just be a small thing. Yeah, it's just $1 a gallon. That money adds up. That money adds up. And for people who are not rich, those dollars will most certainly add up. And here it is, the president, by making us the #1 crude oil producer in the entire world, he has made it so that we're going to be able to save revenue. Our country is going to be able to become richer. You individually are able to become richer because of the fact that the oil prices are now managed. Furthermore, another thing that our president did, even before we became the #1 producer, before he made it happen, when those other countries, the oil producing, exporting countries, when they began to raise prices, they tried to raise the prices of oil generally. While President Trump was in office, he told them directly, no, you will bring those prices down. Now you might say, well, how in the world was he able to give orders like that? Oh, that's simple. America is also the largest trade relation that many of these nations have. And if the president clamps down on that trade or taxes puts a tariff on their items coming into our country, well, then it's going to hurt them big time. And since the president is willing to do that, they knew they needed to negotiate those prices downward. And they did. And our country has benefited. And you, as a black person, as a brown person, you have won. Again, this is the work of Trump. This is specifically his activity. This had nothing to do with the previous administration. Oil was not one of their prime directives. Okay? Coal was definitely, listen, the previous administration closed so many coal manufacturing centers that is really remarkable. They tried to head towards green energy, I suppose. In the meantime, we're suffering. Our economy was suffering. We had the slowest economic recovery from a recession in the history of our country under the previous administration. And by the way, that's fact, that's not opinion. And now we have it to where we're the leading oil producers in the world. That means that the oil production, the prices of them are going to be managed. And they'll be managed a whole lot more by the United States, which means that those prices will remain relatively low because our competitors are not going to be able to raise the price at will. They no longer have that leverage. It means more for your family. Folks, this is what happens. This is how this stuff impacts you. And by the way, it doesn't just impact you temporarily. If you use the money right that you're saving, if you'll go ahead and put that money aside and get ready to grow your nest egg, you're going to be able to invest and start your own business. You're going to be able to grow your own family's future and prospects of prosperity. You're going to be able to do that. But you can only do that when you have expendable resources. That is, when you have money to do it. And you can only do that when the overhead, what you have to pay for things, is reduced. And gasoline is one of them. If you have to go to the gas pump every other day and you're pumping these gallons of gasoline in, and you're able to save 50, 75, $1.50 a gallon, well, man, if you'll manage your money right and properly save the money that you're saving on the gas, you can use that money and you can grow your family's, your personal wealth and your family's wealth. This is what the reduction in oil prices has done, and this is what he's done for us. That automatically gave all of us a raise. All of us got a pay raise because we were paying less for oil. Folks, this is amazing stuff. This is what your president has done, the President of the United States, Donald Trump.
I am also taking swift and decisive action to protect our great capital, Washington, D.C. What happened in this city last night was a total disgrace. As we speak, I am dispatching thousands and thousands of heavily armed soldiers, military personnel,